what was the role of women like in education, girls and women, be it in different stages of women? Can you tell us about that?
Sure. So, in ancient India, education was as important for women as it was for men. There was no difference. So, they would also have the Vidyarambha, they would have the Upanayana, they would wear the sacred thread. Then, what can be more telling than the fact that the goddess of learning is Saraswati, who is female. So, she is the Devi. We meditate on her when we want learning, we want speech, we want eloquence, knowledge of music. That itself shows you that women were very much part of the education system. And if you look at the famous debate between Shankaracharya and Mandana Mishra, the judge was a lady, a woman of high learning. So this shows. And then we have as many as 30 women who are mentioned in the Rig Veda. They composed important suktas of the Rig Veda. And these ladies must have made real contribution to the advance of scholarship. Otherwise, why would their names have to be chanted every day, right? Now, the problem is, since we are disconnected from the past, we don't know what are all the books that they wrote or what they composed, but we are told to remember them every day. So this shows that women were so important in education. And the other evidence we have is yajna, because in ancient times, yajnas were extremely important rituals, right, which were performed, which needed a lot of knowledge. You needed a knowledge of geometry. You have to prepare the altar, you have to make the yantras, you have to have good pronunciation, you need to know grammar. So yajnas are a good example. If somebody is doing a yajna, you know how educated they are. And you see in the ancient books, we see the learned women performing yajnas, right? In Ramayana itself, you have Kaushalya, who is performing a yajna all by herself. It is mentioned on the eve of Rama's coronation as the Yuvaraja. She was performing a yajna all by herself. So this gives you the proof. And then women were, and there was a term called Brahmavadini. Brahmavadinis were women who wanted to devote their lives to learning, and they would often not marry. And of course, if they decided to marry, then that would terminate and they would lead a married life. But there were women who did chose not to marry but pursue higher learning their whole life. They traveled all over India. They also taught, right? And women were studying complex and abstract subjects like the Purva Mimamsa, which is not at all easy, right? And there are terms for women who are learning various subjects, women specialists in the subject, which are mentioned in the Mahabhashya. So if there were enough women studying that subject that you need to coin a word for that, then you know how many women were studying, right? And there was a whole tradition of women as teachers. So we have terms like upadhyaya, which signifies a female teacher, and she is different from upadhyayani, who is the wife of a male teacher. So, and then you have Bhaskaracharya, who wrote Leelavati, a book on mathematics, which is throughout addressed to a girl, to a young, beautiful girl. He keeps addressing her as he's explaining all the various, asking her to solve the questions, and he's telling her how to solve the questions, the arithmetic questions. So, and also if you see in the Yajur Veda, you can see, and Atharva Veda, all the Vedas, it was desirable that a woman of learning did not marry beneath her. She did not marry someone with lesser learning than her. I think they probably knew that it will be a very hard marriage if the woman is more educated, right? So in the Yajur Veda, it is, what I meant is, if a woman is more educated than her husband, it is going to be hard. That part was very clear. So in the Yajur Veda, it is mentioned that a daughter who has completed Brahmacharya should wed one who is learned like her. And there is a shloka in the Atharva Veda which says that a woman has very little chance to find a good husband if she is not well educated as a brahmacharini. Okay, I think this is a very an amazing testimony to the knowledge centric society of India. The fact that women need to be educated in order to find good husbands. Then there are expressions, about in the marriage ceremony itself, where the girl is said to be one who is a good speaker in assemblies, who speaks in assemblies where debates are held. So she's also one who speaks well, debates well. So, but again, we must remember that not all women went for higher education. That was not that all women would have wanted. You see that even today. So, a basic education was available to everybody, whether they were girls, boys, and most of them got skills because that is the way they earned a livelihood. So only a few women would probably have gone for that higher education, very high education, where they would not be willing to marry, right? And and we can see that this kind of an advanced society, what kind of a setback it must have suffered when the foreign invasion started taking place, right? When Ghaznavi, Ghori, and this whole period of Islamic rule, when that happened, women's freedom had to be severely curtailed, and it was absolutely dangerous for them to go out. They could be kidnapped. The whole society was in turmoil, and there were slave markets where the kidnapped women could be sold and they would be traded. Right, the slave markets opened up in Delhi. There was a well-known slave market. So under these conditions, you can't expect women's freedoms to survive and women going out to schools and universities to study. So we should not looking. We can't even imagine what it was like at that time and how it would have affected the society, right? So in the end, it would seem to me that a woman's desires and resolve, they would determine how far she would go in life. Whether it was in ancient India or later, even after the invasions and everything, or even today, it's up to the woman's resolve. If she wants to study something at any cost, she will go and do it. But there will be people telling her, "Come on, get married. You should have children," because that's also a dharmic duty. Because it is understood that if a majority of women choose to only study, work, and not have families, or have only have maybe one child, then it's not, it lead to a severe decline in the population. So the pragmatic aspect also was understood, I think, by most women. So that's the reason that not everybody went into higher education, which would involve cutting themselves off from society. So that's what it was. Women's education was available for those who wanted. They could go ahead and pursue it. There were challenges, just like today.
Absolutely. And I think the important thing was there was so many, it was a myriad of opportunities and different paths that individuals, be it men or women, could undertake.
Namaste. We hope you enjoyed this Chitti Media content. Please remember to subscribe to us and switch on the notifications for this channel. For our other social media links, more content, and to support our work, please visit citti.net. Dhanyavad. Namaskar.